Okay. Okay. Hi everyone. This is Tyler Gogan with Baka Bros Studios. Sorry, a little late on the streaming. There's some technical difficulties that me and Daniel were facing. Daniel is here on with us, answering questions and just kind of being backup for a little bit during the stream. So yeah, today we're going to be going over damage, taking damage on the Mallet Boys animations here. Damage right. So the character, the enemy will be, or other champions will be coming up and hitting Mallet Boy on the right side, and he will be reacting to the left side, right? And so I've gone ahead and made a damage right here. And when we start an animation, we want to make sure we start with the first frame of the accelerate. The accelerate animation, because during gameplay we are pressing the gas button right on the controller and we are going, and so since we are accelerating the whole time throughout gameplay, we need to go from the acceleration animation, and then we're just going to take the first frame from that. And this is how you would do it on other games and other studios as well. You're going to go from the first frame of the state that the character will be in most of the time or the whole time. Okay. And so like in just to give a quick example, if we were in just like a third person shooter or something like that, the character would remain in idle. Their idle state would be their typical like default state, and so you would get the first frame from the idle and build all your animations off of that that animation, first frame animation. And so let's go ahead and get started with this. In my workflow, I like to work in clamped and stepped mode, and what that does is it makes it so your keys are stepped, so it's jumping from one key pose to the next, right? So if we go to here, my next frame, and I set a key, and then I move Mallet Boy like that, pretty crazy stuff. He jumps from one key to the next, right? And you don't see any of these in-betweens here. Nothing is happening in here. And we can get a really solid, quick pass of what we're looking for, okay? It just jumps to the next. And so with my workflow, I like to work in stepped mode. And so let's go ahead and start building out this first frame, okay, or this second keyframe, sorry. And so when the characters, when the other champions are going to come up here on the right side of Mallet Boy, they're going to do their ability or their weapon or whatever you want to call it, and they're going to smash him from the right, and they're going to hit him to the left, right? And so we're going to build this second keyframe out here from the first keyframe to the second, and Mallet Boy is going to be reacting to the left, right? Characters are hitting him from the right, and he's reacting to the left side. And so we want to go ahead and make a really extreme pose, right? We want to go ahead and make a really extreme pose, and because we can always tone things down, right? And usually in animation, we want to work in extremes anyways, because we want to push it as much as we can. That's what makes it really pop and shine, is when we can push the animation and push the poses. We don't want to necessarily break the model or break the character, but we want to push it as far as we can while still maintaining the look of the character. Okay. And so another way that in my pipeline, when I'm blocking in, you might be thinking that when he reacts to the left side, his head and his body is going to go to the right, like this. You know, build in some overlap there, right, like that. You can do it that way, but from the years that I've worked on games and things, I've learned that building the overlap in the pose, at least in stepped and clamped in stepped pipeline, it's not actually the best to do that, because it'll make it a lot easier later on in the graph editor and when you're moving keys around on the timeline. So what I do is I push things all the way to the left side in this instance, because he's getting hit to the left, right, and so he's going to be going over, and we're pushing that to the extremes, right? Oh yeah, this is fantastic. I'm super happy that the textures got done. They weren't done before. I was animating with no textures before, and having textured on it is just fantastic. And showing people the animations it's a lot more fun. So now that I've gone in and put the major things on Mallet Boy in the cart, I kind of want to focus on the nuances here, right? Of what the cart extremities of the cart will be doing. So the exhaust pipes on the cart and everything, and so they're going to also be reacting to this to the other champions hitting Mallet Boy, right? And since it's the right side, I've actually gone ahead and decided I'm going to decide to do kind of an artistic choice here of just having one side of the cart moving and reacting to the hit, right? Because the left side here, the left pipes, they're not the ones being hit. It's the right pipes that are being hit, and so I want to exaggerate the right pipes, and I actually don't want to touch the left pipes at all, because they're not the side that's getting hit. And if we move the left pipes, it's going to kind of dumb down the fact that he's getting hit from the right side, if that makes sense at all. It kind of draws your eye more to the right side where Mallet Boy's getting hit. Okay. And since this isn't a super hard animation, it's quite a simple animation, and so there's gonna be really 3 key poses in here, maybe 4, right? He's gonna be getting hit, boom, and he's gonna be coming back down so he can keep driving, right? So boom, come back down, and there's one other key pose we're gonna set here, and that's over when he comes back down, he's gonna overshoot, and then the cart is gonna come back up, right? And so we'll just go ahead and build that overshoot, and then he comes back up, and then he returns back to his acceleration pose, because the player's gonna keep driving, right? And oftentimes I'll just sit here and I'll scrub through the animation to really get a feel for what's going on, and it might be like, I don't understand. A lot of people will be like, I don't understand how you can really see what's going on. It's just like in stepped mode, and it's everything's kind of going fast. And as you just animate through time, you just kind of start to get an eye for what's really going on, and what the animation is going to look like. Obviously, this is really super rough right now, and it's just in the blocking first pass, right? But as you animate through the years, you'll see the simplicity in, if you do like this pipeline, the simplicity of just doing this in blocking mode like this. Oh yeah, there's so many animators that I've taught, and I've helped work through things where they work in splined mode, or like they have all these crazy, they probably have triple the amount of keys or something that I have, and they could have just made it a lot simpler if they would have just stayed in stepped mode like this and made their life a lot easier and not worked as hard or taken as much time on the final animation. But that just comes, I think, with years of experience. Is there any modeling things that you've picked up that just make you faster, Daniel? Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. I've done that a bit, and it's definitely it's a lot better. All right, so from this point here, I've got my four keys, the main keys that I want to put in there. The main keys that are really telling us what's going on, right? Telling us, okay, he got hit, and after he got hit, he's coming back down, and then he's returning back to his accelerate state, right? And so now I'm just going to go ahead and time this out, okay? And this is where I really get a feel for like how quickly the animation is going to play and where I'm going to have my hang time, and how fast he's going to return back to his acceleration state. And so right now, I mean, this is a rough timing, and so let's go ahead and put this down to 20 frames. 20 frames. And then we can see that we want this animation to be fast, right? It's not going to be slow by any means because the character's just getting hit. It's not like it's going to be like slow motion or anything like that, unless that's set up post or something like that, and with the game, which that actually might be pretty cool, you know, sometimes making the characters like get hit and it just like goes into slow mo or something like that. That'd actually be kind of cool. Not all the time, just sometimes when like a champion like gets like a serious move or a serious hit, a critical hit or whatever, and it goes in slow mo. That'd be pretty cool. Oh yeah. Yeah, they do that. Yeah, they do that when you're about to, get the final smash or whatever. They zoom in and slow mo it, which is pretty cool. And then oh shoot, Punch Out. What's the character's name? Gosh, I think he's like one of my most favorite video game characters of all time. Little Mac. Every time his KO, it slows in, zooms in slow mo, and then he punches the character out of scene. He's great. He's awesome. He's honestly one of my favorite video game characters of all time. Probably only because I played Punch Out a ton when I was a kid. So probably nostalgia for me more than anything else. All right, so you'll see that I added a key here. I've got 5 keys now, and you'll see that I added a key here, and it's not really doing anything, but that's because when I've gone in and I know that when he gets hit and he goes into this pose, I want him to stay in this pose for just a couple of frames, and then he goes back down, and this is our hang time, right? This is the kind of like the what's the meaty part of the animation where you get that comedic part of it, or I don't want to say comedic, but you exaggerate the cartooniness of it, or you exaggerate reality in these instances, kind of like like if you were to animate a jump cycle or something like that, or a character jumping, you'd have the character jump, and at the apex you'd have them hang in the air for a little, just a little bit, and then they'd come back down. And this is the same kind of thing. It's building in this hang time right here. I just set another key right here. It's not doing anything, but when I press the spline button, he's going to stay in. He's going to go up into this hit pose. He's going to stay there for a minute, and then he's going to return down really fast. And so I built all these poses in, and so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I have a key on every one of my keyframes. And that kind of sounds weird, but in my pipeline, the way I do things, the way I was taught, I in stepped and clamped mode, you select all of your keys, and then everywhere that you have a key pose, you go through and you press S, and then the greater than sign or the less than sign, and then S again, and that just steps through all your keys, and you're able to lock down on each control. You're able to lock down your pose so that it's not going to go anywhere when you press the spline button. And I probably just spouting off a bunch of jargon to Daniel. Is that right? You don't know anything I'm talking about. Yeah. Um, yeah. I'm sure the animators streaming understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, so now I'm going to go into the graph editor here, and I'm going to go, all my controls are selected, and I'm going to hit the auto button, right? That some people hit the spline button, but I hit the auto button. This is, every animator is different. There's a million ways to animate. Anyway, so let's go ahead and press play on this and see what we have, right? Okay, yeah. And you can see that, sorry, what were you going to say something, Daniel? Cool. And so now you can see I've built in that hang time, and he goes up, and I kind of just want to just go off, animate this for just a second to really emphasize what I'm talking about here with this hang time stuff. He goes up into it, he stays there for a minute, and then he goes back down, right? And so, and it kind of emphasizes when you do that hang time and then you go down super fast, it kind of emphasizes that hit that Mallet Boy has taken. And it kind of makes it a little bit more fun adding that hang time in there, because if we take that out, go like this, and we just delete this key and then remove some in-betweens, you'll see that it's not quite as fun. We press play here. It's not quite as fun, right? Well, I mean, would you agree? Exactly. And so adding this hang time in here kind of gives it a little bit more, I don't know the word, grit, I guess. I don't know. It gives it, in animation, it gives it texture, right? You're mentioning timing, and it changes up the timing, because you have this point in which it goes up really fast and it just sits there, and then it goes down really fast, and you have this change up of timing in animation, and that's what makes animation really fun. Okay, and so now we're going to get into kind of another part of the meat and bones of animation, is its offset, right? And just by simply, grabbing the head here and pulling those keys over, just one frame, all of them, right? You'll be able to see Mallet Boy's head offset and react just a little bit. Pull pull it back just a little bit more. Just adds that offset and kind of makes it a little more believable, ragdollish, right? But with his head is obviously going, is not reacting to the hit like we want it to here. And one thing we need to make sure we do is we take it out. If we're gonna set any new keys on any controls, we need to take it out of clamped and stepped mode, and we need to put it in auto mode, right? And this will set a key, and it will make sure that it's not stepping to the next. And so now we will build in that and so making Mallet Boy get whiplash. Yeah, you know, I honestly, when I'm animating characters, I honestly sometimes feel bad for the characters in a sense. I'm like breaking their bones and breaking their neck, you know, like super bad whiplash on Mallet Boy here. It's almost therapeutic though, you know, honestly. Hurting these, yeah, or hurting these characters, that way I don't hurt my own kids or family members, right? Just kidding. Okay, and so just grabbing all the different things here and pulling our keys over to add offset. And I think this animation is a perfect, just kind of, it's the first time we're doing a live stream for the animation, and I think it's a good kickoff live stream because it's not super difficult animation, and it's simple and it's a quick one. And what we're doing in this animation is not a lot of really hard things to grasp, and so I think this is a good starter animation. One thing that Daniel has asked is that we make it so when the cart gets hit, it's jerked, or it deforms a little bit, and so when we get this, when Mallet Boy gets hit from the right side, his cart is gonna bow or bend into the direction that it's getting hit, right? And so he's getting hit from the right side, and the engine is gonna bend over to the right, and it's gonna stay in that bent mode. And one of the animations that we actually want to do for the game is in game, if we can pull it off, the cart stays in a more bent mode, and then it bounces, it kind of slingshots or like reverberates back to normal when you start going again. Yeah, and so our cart is remaining in this state here, right? And so when he gets hit, it's gonna be deformed like this, right? And we're in just a minute here, we're gonna jack up other parts of the cart here and kind of return them back to normal. But I think this is a really fun idea, actually, to put in game. It'll just add a little bit more texture to the gameplay. When players are going, they'll get to see kind of like the details of the characters' carts being all bent up and everything, and then returning back. I think it's a really fun idea. So yeah. Yeah, no, we want to take this game to the full throttle, right? Which I actually, when you tell me you like this thing, you want to do this, or like when you're describing an animation and you're like, this is what we want to do, and I'm like, oh, kind of like Mario Kart, and you're like, well, yeah, but we want to go for more. I don't want to say realistic, but like physics based, and so and I'm like, sometimes I forget because anybody that is anybody when somebody's talking about uh, a kart racing game, they're gonna think about Mario Kart, right? And that's just natural. I mean, Nintendo has kind of dominated the kart racing world for sure, and so yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember if it was like Forza or something. I mean, I'm just thinking of this, a Forza or something like that, where you would crash the car and then like your car parts would go flying off into the audience, and then like this blood would happen or something like blood would come out of the crowd or something like that. I don't remember what game it was, but I was like, wow, that's intense. Because it was like like a you were racing to like on the sides where there were people cheering you on or whatever, right? And then your car would a tire would fly off into the crowd and it would like explode people or something like that. It was insane. Did you ever see that movie Death Race? I never saw that. I never saw that. I always wanted to. Yeah, it was Jason Statham. Yeah. I never saw it. I need to watch that. I never saw it. I remember being like totally excited when I was a teenager because that's when it came out. But I never saw it. Me and my brother were like super into like Fast and Furious games on Xbox, and we were super stoked and we saw the commercial for that. We never watched it. I feel silly saying that now, but yeah. So we'll see here. We got the cart bending in the direction of and we'll have to once we get this in game, we'll have to really see how it's going. Might wanna bend it more, or you know, do a couple more things to it. But I think this is a good point right now to before we get it in game to really see how we can really push this, and maybe we can shoot this over to this side like this for the first, and then it snaps back over to that side to really emphasize like getting the hit. And I actually like that, taking it into account like that we're getting hit by another character, that jerky poppy snap that we see right here in the first to the second frame. It looks really jarring, but that's kind of the point that we want to exaggerate and we want to push in the game. It's jarring when you get hit, right? And so having that kind of jarring feel and then it's bent out of shape is it kind of emphasizes things. We can, yeah. I'm super stoked. I'm just finding new ways that we can kind of distort the cart. Yeah, it looks super janky now. That back exhaust, is like totally, oh, it's terrible. Okay, then one more thing I want to do to this animation here is I want to take the main control, and one thing you want to make sure that you don't do is move this main control, this world control, away from the original space, just because just when the programmers get in there, they need to move that world joint in certain ways, and if you move that world joint, the programmers work off of a 0, 0, 0 space, right? And if you move that main joint there at the base of the rig, you're moving that off of 0, 0, 0, and your programmers will get really mad at you. I've had it happen plenty of times. But as long as we keep the translation in the same spot at 0, 0, 0, we can move the rotation values, right? And it'll be fine as long as it's staying in the same position. It's okay to move off of the rotation of 0, 0, 0, and that emphasizes the hit, right? I'm excited for sound effects of this. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fantastic. Ew, jackass. After I get the base, base movement in there, I like to just see where I can just polish, just add just little nuances, right? The sweetness of art in general, especially in animation. I'd say maybe I'm biased, but especially in animation is just the attention to detail, right? You can the satisfaction, I don't know how the saying goes, but the satisfaction is in the detail, right? And just adding like taking the wheel and instead of having it just go like that, we really bend it right here, and so it snaps down on contact. In fact, we can even maybe go like this, bring these frames over like this, and then snap that down. Yeah, absolutely. It takes it from a 10 to an 11. You know what I mean? Yeah. And And you might add a detail in, and you might be like, I don't like that detail. Then you take it out. Yeah. Yeah, getting the sound effects in here and getting the just the effects in here, it'll just be great. You know, getting that like getting like a pop effects, just like this really like nice like spark smash effects from the right side when he gets hit. It's just gonna be awesome. Yeah. One of the probably the biggest reason I got into animation is just like bringing things to life, right? It's like super exciting and um, fulfilling to like take a model that somebody's created and just like give it life. You know what I mean? Oh, it's hard for me to like do character design, and I'll draw something up, and like I know that I don't have the time to give it like put some 2D animation on it. I just don't have the time to do that, and it really makes me sad because I just know that there's like a brain. I've created this like whole backstory for this character, right? But I can't dive into that. I just don't have the time. You know what I mean? You just like fall in love with the characters that you create, and you want to like give them their own story and like all this all this other things. But and then you name the character, and then it's just like all downhill from there. You give it a name, and it's just like it's downhill from there. But yeah, anyway, that was this animation, and I think we're able to get some really fun stuff here. Um, I don't know. Did you wanna stick on here? Yeah, I guess we have about 20 more minutes. We wanted to cover an hour. Is that right? Yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. What we can cover. Uh, Go ahead and do like the like snapping back animation to where the card is damaged and it snaps back to the acceleration pose. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and get that started. And so what I'm gonna do for that animation is I'm gonna actually I'm gonna copy the last frame of the damage animation here. I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna make a new layer, and I'm gonna call this world. I don't know. I don't know. Repair, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I repair right. I don't know. We'll just give it that. It's probably gonna change, but that's the best I can do for now. And then we're gonna paste that last frame, and that's the last frame of our damage right um, animation. Okay, and so just like before, we're gonna go into stepped and clamped mode, and we're gonna go into our graph editor, and we're gonna make sure that the animation is stepped. And so what I imagine in my mind when I'm thinking about this animation is the cart, like, it kind of vibrates, it does a little bit of a vibration, and then it snaps back into its original pose and kind of does a hop. I don't know, I guess we'll get feedback from the actual designer. What do you think, Daniel? What were you imagining with the it snapping back into repaired mode, or when it goes back into drivable, I guess you can say? Yeah. Okay. So with him having said that, I'm gonna go ahead and just get going. Um, and so go to our second frame here, make sure it's stepping. Okay, and then we're gonna. This one also is gonna have only about three keyframes in it, and so it won't be an excessive animation. So we're gonna have it hop up just a little bit. And then it's just gonna pop back down. And when on this hop up, we're gonna just have it go back to 0 state, right, with everything. And really what we can do is actually we're gonna take the first frame from our acceleration animation, right? And we're gonna copy that, and we're gonna paste it into the last frame of this animation, since it's returning back to its original acceleration state. And so we paste that, and we can honestly copy and paste that frame to the second frame here, but the difference is on this second frame, like we did before, it's gonna pop up in the air and then return back to idle. And one of the cool things, what's going to happen in game, at least the plan, is when you get knocked over to this, when you get knocked or bashed or hit by the other player, your card is going to fly to the left or to the right, and then at that point, after it slides to the left or to the right, if we can pull this off, it's going to bounce back to the original acceleration state, right? That's the plan. And so if we were to take the world control and pull it over like this, right? And move that over this. Right? It's knocked to the side like that in game, and then in game, from this state right here, it's going to go into the pop back animation, and it's gonna, so just pull it over here like this, just for example purposes. Pull it over, it's gonna hop and go back to idle. Bing. Right. And on this hop back, since it's going to be hopping from the left side into the right side back to regular, we want to build that. We want to kind of just a little bit build that into the pose here. And again, just like the damage, it's going to overshoot and then come back up. When it bounces, it's going to go down and then it's going to come back up. Oh yeah, I'm excited for it. It's gonna be really cool. It's gonna be really cool. And I mean, it doesn't look that cool in Maya, but it's gonna look way cooler in game. Yeah, I was thinking like it's gonna be cool because the player is gonna get hit, and it's not like they're just gonna stop mid motion and just fly to the side. They're gonna be like almost like drifting, like they get hit and they drift to the side, and their card is still going forward. And then as they're maybe in game we have them slow down just a little bit because their cart is like damaged, right? But they're still going forward, and then they bounce back and then they speed and then they take off again. If that makes sense. That's the way I imagine it, at least. I don't know. It's gonna be awesome. Okay, so we got our main poses down for this, and they're not these poses aren't as extreme as the hit poses, because we're just bouncing back to the original acceleration state. But one of the cool things that I think with the cartoony feeling of this animation here, I think the engine will actually start to vibrate in a sense before it snaps back, and so we want to build that anticipation into the animation, right? It's anticipating bouncing back, and so like just like any anticipation in animation, it's getting ready to do this really big move, right? And so if we see this cart vibrating for a sec and then it pops back into place, it add a lot of emphasis to that return back to acceleration state. And so we can go ahead and see that here. Oh. It's actually a good example here of what not to do. Oh, thanks. Saying the whole saying the the whole process was bad, right? No, uh, no. If you don't do that whole like the greater than sign and then S key to lock in a pose, you actually get this kind of a thing where it floats up, right? And it gets floaty. And so what we want to do, what doing that whole S key and greater than sign, it locks down each one of our poses, and so that kind of a thing doesn't happen, right? If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. It's some more animation jargon that you might not understand. Oh, good. Well, apparently to you, I'm doing everything wrong the whole time. So, which part? Oh, that's fun. I think we're still stuck in stepped and clamped mode. Let's go back to our graph editor here. Okay. Oh yeah. It gets crazy with so many moving parts, you know. Yeah. There's definitely a lot to consider. Really, the way I like to, cause honestly, like bringing in, bringing everything in at one time, it is intimidating. I mean, even to me, just seeing all the controls all together at once, it is intimidating even to me. And I've done a lot of characters, but I kind of just go, okay, what part, what is the root mode, like what thing in here is driving everything else, right? And then I animate that first, and then I build on top of that. So the cart, it's the root joint, right? It's like the main thing that's driving everything else, right? If that makes sense. And so I'll build that animation first, or I'll build those poses in, and then I'll just kind of work my way up, if that makes sense. So in this case, the cart, I got done with the cart, and so then I move up to Mallet Boy, and and Mallet Boy is driving the mallet, and so I kind of just work up the chain, if that makes sense. Yeah, I've taught animators before, and they just kind of I tell them my pipeline, and some of them are like, I just can't do it that way. Others are like, wow, I never really thought about it like that. And so, and I love teaching animation. It's just so much fun. It just like teaching them how to kind of like what we were saying before, just bring those characters to life, you know. and giving them a brain, so to speak. They're not they go from being CGI characters to like almost living, breathing characters that consciously make choices. I don't know. I'm getting really deep here. Yeah, absolutely. Are there a lot of like I honestly actually don't go onto YouTube and like see other animators working a lot. I don't really I don't know. I don't really do that. Are there a lot of people that do animation tutorials? I just don't watch those. That it sounds kind of weird, but I just don't. I don't know. Well, it's cool. I mean, yeah. I've actually um, been there's this really cool like rigging, simple rigging you can do in like After Effects and of characters. Nothing like 3D or anything, but it's like 2D characters and it's just a certain style. And I've kind of actually wanted to start designing like characters in there and like run through animation tutorials in there. I mean, I just think it just sounds super exciting. And yeah, yeah, it's super awesome, and I, you know, just and I think this, whole live streaming thing is super cool that you're doing. And I mean, I guess if I was in animation school, when I was in animation school, I wish there was something like this, um, where people were, and maybe there was, maybe I just wasn't looking for it, but not that, but none of my teachers said there was anything like it, and I imagine they would, and so, but 3D just as a whole is just kind of really taking off, in the world. You got to stay vigilant. You got to stay ready. The competition's coming. There's so many artistic. I I I have this problem where I just want to do like all the things. You know, do you ever have that problem? I just want to like do. I see this like this cool like artistic style, like whether in animation or in just drawing or character design. I just see this new thing and I'm like, oh man, I want to do that so bad. But I've got all these other things I want to do, and it just like sidetracks. I just want to do all the things. I told my wife the other day, I'm like, honey, don't laugh at me. I kind of want to do like try some acting or something like that. And she's like, I don't know where you're gonna find the time to do this because you want to do all these other things. What are you gonna do? And I'm like, I know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, dude. There's just not enough time in the day. You know, there's just not enough time. So yeah, this is kind of what we've come out with. I might take it just a step or two further, but this is pretty much at least before we see it in game, right? Once we get it in game and kind of test it out, it might change a little bit, but um, this is the bulk of what the returning back to acceleration state will be. It's not super exciting, again, just in Maya, but when it goes into the game with the hit happening, and then this happening after the hit happens, where you're going back into racing, it'll be a lot of really fun, cool stuff happening. I was actually looking at like in detail. I was actually looking at Mario Kart, and it's crazy the lack of animation that they actually have on the cart. Like literally, you're sitting there and you're pressing the gas button, and it makes sense. There's actually hardly anything going on with the cart. The wheels don't turn at all. When you turn the wheel, the wheels don't turn, or like um, maybe they turn a little bit, but there's like hardly. It's a lot of it is just FX, right? And yeah, there honestly there's not a ton of like detailed animation on the card itself, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I was just surprised like how much like my mind tricked me into thinking without closely diving into it, how like how much your mind fills in the gaps of what you think you're seeing opposed to what's actually really there. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. And there's definitely limitations at the studio I work at because we're just mainly on mobile and everything. And there's a lot of limitations that we have to keep in mind. And it's kind of a downer when we can't add cool things to the game because we have to take in mind like file size and memory size and everything. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's wraps it up for today. And so I think it was super fun getting on and stream live, and so I'm gonna go ahead and call it here if that's okay with you, Daniel. Absolutely, and we will definitely. I'm definitely I'm planning on doing trying to do every Tuesday and Thursday, um, getting on and streaming, and so yeah. This is Gogan with Baka Bros Studios, and thanks for joining us live today for this awesome animation streaming. Peace out.